And so I go through these moments where I will just shut down.
Yeah.
Like, not completely, but she can just tell my mood's changed. Something's triggered in me.
Yeah.
But rather than externalizing it, I'm just like, okay, what's this all about, you know?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Epicest. I'm Doug. This is hopefully a weekly podcast or daily podcast that we'll be posting things. We've had a little hiatus, but just because of some transformations in who we're using. With me today is Nickie Felts. Nickie, you've been here before, and a holistic nutritionist.
You got it.
Great, yes. Today, well, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about. We're just going to talk. But we have gone back and forth on this, you know, whether we're going to do this podcast or not, and your comfort around that. And it's taken you probably 6 months to decide to do it.
Yeah, about that.
And you're a little bit nervous, which
Yes,
is
very
okay.
nervous.
I have like a gazillion questions, so you know how I
imagine.
roll. I'm gonna have so many questions because I'm learning too. So we're going to be talking about narcissism, basically, and maybe introduce yourself, what you do, and then why this topic is relevant to you.
Okay. Making that link.
In a few words, you know, we'll get deep into
For
the
sure.
relevance of it, but
Okay. So I'm a holistic nutritionist now. I used to be a federal government employee, but my life changed in 2019 and led me to this path, which I am very grateful for. It's changed my life entirely. And it's, I guess the link to today is realizing along that path that I'm a narcissist. So I feel like I should stand up like I'm an AA right now. Like, so hi, I'm Nickie. I'm a recovering narcissist.
yay!
Yeah.
Hi, Nickie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to say that even just now.
Is it? Eh?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a recovering narcissist as well. A
Oh.
recovered narcissist, I like to say.
Yay.
But in recovery, some people say recovering, and some people say recovered. In the big book, I think it says recovered. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. I haven't read the big book in it forever. But I feel like I'm a recovered drug addict. I'm a recovered narcissist. Doesn't mean I don't fall into narcissism. We all do.
Yes.
So there's a spectrum of narcissism, right?
Yeah.
There's a narcissistic personality disorder, which is a very intense thing that is hard to work with because most people with NPD actually don't seek treatment because they're never wrong.
Yep.
And then there's just, you know, this scale of narcissism. We all fall into it depending on our circumstances in life and in and out of it. Before we go there, I just want to say, how is your practice doing? So you have your own practice.
I do, yes.
And what's it called?
One Whole Life.
One Whole Life. And you have a website, onewholelife.ca.
Correct, yeah.
Yes. And how's that going?
It's going pretty good. It ebbs and flows, which is, I think, normal in the wellness industry, especially, you know, the beginning of the new year. Everyone's spent all their benefits and did all their focus on themselves. And now they just, you know, they're trying to hit the gym and do that kind of stuff. So nutrition is often a last thought.
Don't people realize that actually it should start with sleep, nutrition, these things? Exercise can come later because exercise without good nutrition is kind of like,
Yeah.
they say you can't out-exercise a bad diet.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. But people don't see that, right? We don't talk a lot about nutrition in the media and you know, the public spaces. It is often about the gym and the exercise and the running and the lifting weights, and not too many people. It's actually changing. I see it changing a lot now, which I'm really grateful for. There is more talk now about nutrition and sleep than there was before. So it's just a matter of time, I think. And I'll be patient because I'm doing a lot of growing in the meantime too. I'm learning about running a business.
Sure.
Which is huge.
That's a whole different ballgame from nutrition.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like,
Yes.
running a business is, I mean, I've run businesses a long time, you know, and so to me it's second nature, but I still find it challenging.
Yeah.
But for a new business person, there's a lot involved.
A lot. Yeah. A lot of things I didn't even realize. But it's getting there and it's going well. And it's building and I'm learning and having fun.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that. before we get into the narcissist thing, so nutrition, I'm in relatively good shape. People come up to me sometimes and they'll ask me, oh, what do you do? And the first thing my mind goes to is not working out. It's nutrition. Well, it's sleep, nutrition, hydration, a bunch of things, right? Is nutrition though, what I put in my body. And what I've learned is for the people who actually ask me, it's the last thing they want to hear.
Yeah.
It is the last thing they really want. Like, stop eating sweet, sugary stuff. Or they don't want to hear that. They want the simple fix, right?
Yes.
And I think that applies in life in general. We want the simple fix. We want to take the pill and be fit and healthy. And
yeah.
So the role that you play, Nickie, is essential. But how do you, getting people across that line to say, okay, I'm willing to put some effort in to my nutrition. I think we talked about this in the last podcast. It's a big hurdle for people, especially in North America. When you go down the aisles of grocery stores and everything is, most of it's garbage.
Yeah. And
people are used to just grabbing garbage, not reading the labels, and shoving it into their bodies, and not realizing that, in my high performance sports car, if I throw dirty fuel in there, it's not going to run well. If I don't even put the high test in, it's not going to run well.
Yeah.
And that's our bodies, right? If we don't put the good fuel in, it's not going to run well.
Absolutely.
And eventually it'll break down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's tough. That's a really good question. What I've come to realize is it's very emotional, right? People are emotionally connected to food.
So emotionally attached to food.
Yes, very emotionally connected. And I've realized that with a few clients, actually, who basically ghosted me or didn't come back because we started addressing the relationship with food, and they take it personally or it offends them in some way, and we can't even approach it, right? And I don't necessarily blame people for what they see in the grocery stores because the labels are very misleading.
Oh
right?
my
You
gosh,
think you're
they're the
being
worst.
heart healthy, like that little heart stamp or whatever. Like,
They're the worst. The
so
labels
terrible. Yeah.
The best that my son and I, we go to the store, whatever, as we looked at it was a label said all real ingredients. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Maybe
what
at
is
some point.
Well, isn't everything real? It's all real. It's all physically real.
Yeah.
But what is real ingredients? It makes you think, oh, that's healthy.
Yeah.
But if you look at the ingredients, it's garbage.
Yeah.
They are real.
Exactly.
Real poison, real chemicals, real whatever.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Marketing is amazing. And I get that emotion. I am blessed with an on and off switch for food. So if I just decide not to eat it, I just won't eat it. And if I want to eat it, but that's very abnormal. And people are amazed by, oh, you just want stop eating things. I said, yeah, if my doctor or if I don't need to stop eating something, I'll just stop eating it.
Yeah.
And I'll just start eating something else. And
yeah, I see that more as I don't like, that's great, and you are blessed to have like that on-off switch. But I see it more as like a priority. Like I think maybe it's easy for you on-off switch because your priority is your health, right?
It is, yes.
No matter
that's
what
true.
you're going to have to do, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you get to that mindset where you're just going to do whatever it takes to be healthy, then you know what, this excuse of, well, it doesn't taste good, I'm not going to do that because it doesn't taste good, or it's like I'm missing my sugar sweets, and what about you only live once, and all those things start to take more of a backseat when you make yourself the priority.
It's true. People will ask me a lot when I'm out for dinner or out at a place, somebody's place, and they have the dessert comes out, and they go, "Aren't you tempted?" I said, "Well, yeah, I guess in a way I'm tempted because I miss sweets.
Yeah,
I miss being able to have even a scoop of ice cream or whatever. But yes, my priority is my health. So would I do it? I said, I'll tell them no, because I'll feel lousy the next day, and it's a slippery slope for me. So for me, it's got to be on or off. I can't. Yeah. I don't do well with what do they call that? Exceptions to the rule in food. My exception, I can do an exception. Like I can do on a Sunday, I'll say, okay, this is my cheat day, but my cheat day is actually not that cheating. For most people, it'd be considered very strict. It's a keto day. But if I go into the sugar thing and all that, I know what it's going to do to my body. I know how it's going to make me feel. I know that it's going to be a slippery slope into, what probably got me into having heart surgery, which was back 7 years ago now. And, that and stress and drugs and all the other stuff I did.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, all those other things. But it's actually an addiction, though, so it's like
sugar's
every
an
single
addiction.
time, every time you take in that processed food or that high sugar treat, you are altering your microbiome, right? You are turning on those bacterial signals that are talking to your brain and wanting you to crave more of that sugar.
Of course.
It's just an addiction, and we don't realize
this crazy path of get my high. Going back to the labels, we'll get to the narcissism thing. Just a bit more. When I look at some of the labels, they put them in order of quantity, right? So the first item is the highest quantity and down as you go past. And so they'll take sugars. They'll have like cane sugar, high fructose corn syrup. They'll have 3 or 4 sugars, but they're somewhere in the middle of the list. Because if they put them all together as a sugar, it would be the top of the list.
Yeah.
And it's very deceptive again, It's like, oh, well, sugar's not the top of the list. There's a few sugars somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
But combined, they're probably 50% of the product.
Yeah, that's a very good observation, actually, and good for people to realize. Yeah.
I teach my son that too, is that, read the labels.
Yeah.
Even
and
some of the
250 different words for sugar, processed sugar. So
and then there's some oils that they put in, and they'll say a product is made with avocado oil. It is made with avocado oil, but it's not the priority oil. It's just you can put a drop of avocado oil and a bunch of other really lousy oils like vegetable oil, and say made with avocado oil.
Yes,
and people will buy it, going, "Oh, avocado oil, that's good."
Yeah. Consumers. I really wish there was something I can do, and I actually do offer that service. I walk around grocery stores with people, and I teach them how to read labels, because it is something I think we all need to get better at, because unfortunately we can't rely on the marketing. We can't rely on the labels. We can't, we have to be able to interpret and question, unfortunately, all the food that we're putting in our bodies.
It would be really cool if you had a list of companies that actually make, are legit companies that really, when you read the label, it's a real thing that they really care about health, and it's rare, but they exist. Because most companies are profit driven, right?
Yes.
And food companies no less, and I have to answer to the shareholders. But it'd be cool to have this list, saying, okay, I can trust XYZ brand, because what they put on their labels is legit. They're not trying to dupe me,
Unfortunately, everything that comes in a box, even if they're a legit company, is going to be processed in some way, which means it's further away from real food, which means it's probably not going to do too well in your body. So the easiest way to stick with those companies that are doing well is to stick to the outside of the grocery store, right? Nothing that comes pre-labeled in a package,
Yeah, I think that's going to be a much tougher sell.
Yeah, it is
definitely. In our
definitely.
culture where we want to just go and grab and start,
Absolutely.
So it's a tougher sell. And probably it's even a tough sell for me. As disciplined as I am in food, it's a tough sell for me. It's I like the convenience of going to the store.
Oh yeah, I love chips. It's definitely my Achilles heel is nachos and chips. I love them.
So, Nickie, narcissism. Do you have a definition for narcissism by any chance? I'm not putting you on the spot. If you don't, that's fine.
That's a really good question. No, I probably don't. I would rely on the experts for that.
Yeah.
Because there is more of a description than a definition. It's a personality type, according to the research that I've been doing.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ramani, she was on the Mel Robinson show. I don't know if you know Mel Robinson's podcast.
No.
But she interviewed Dr. Ramani about narcissism. And
Ramani, yeah. I watch her, yeah.
Yeah, so she's the renowned expert, as far as I understand, on narcissism. And so I would divert to her definition of it, but she describes it as more of a personality type than an actual disorder unless you've been diagnosed.
Yes. And like I said, there is this scale of narcissism. And when I'm struggling, I become narcissistic. I become very into myself, focused on myself.
Yeah.
The world now revolves around me. When I'm trying to keep my head above water, I think that's pretty standard for humanity. When we're just trying to survive, we can become very inward focused. And then the world, But I think the NPD, the narcissistic personality disorder, which also has, I guess, a range, is when it doesn't stem from strength. It comes across from outside as a strength, as strong, as whatever, bold, on the inside is this massive brokenness,
Yes.
this massive emptiness,
Yes.
this massive self-criticism,
Shame.
shame.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable what's happening inside. So I'd love for you to describe to me what was going on. Have you reflected on that, what was going on inside you?
Yeah,
when
I've
you
had a lot of time to like really focus and think on. I've been doing pretty much nothing, but feels like nothing but thinking for a long time.
Yeah.
And some introspective work and self-analysis and revisiting my past and my childhood, and just been going and going and going down this path. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of reflection, and I've also been in therapy for a long time. That helped a lot.
Yes. But getting to therapy for a narcissist
Yeah.
is the biggest hurdle. It's
Yes.
not, well, getting to therapy and then following through with therapy
Yes.
is the biggest hurdle.
So
Just
let's
getting to
talk
therapy.
about that, because that's really interesting, the path that led me to my discovery.
Yeah.
So I've been in therapy probably for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And when
consistently or with
pretty
breaks?
consistently.
Okay.
Some small breaks as,
Yeah.
life takes over and
Yeah.
whatever, but pretty consistently.
Okay.
And but I didn't go to seek therapy for my narcissism or for me. I went to see therapy because I thought everyone else was crazy.
Bingo. Well, that's the eyes of a narcissist, right?
Yes.
It's all about everybody else, and it's all happening to you.
Yes.
It's not happening because of you. It's happening to you.
Yeah. And for probably the last 20 years, I was supported in that belief, through therapy.
Okay, so we're gonna go off on rabbit holes here, because all this you're saying is so important and fascinating. Yeah. The support. So a narcissist is a strong narcissist is very famous for attracting that support. That's what they seek. They seek people who will.
It's validation, right?
Validate
Attention.
I saw a really good. I watched a few YouTube videos, shorts. This woman, she's a therapist, and she says she learned never to trust the female story right out of the gate in a marriage. That to examine that a little deeper, because especially when they're the victim the whole time. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are victims.
Yes.
Men and women alike.
Yes.
Right. But they're not all victims, and not everybody's. Not all narcissists are victims. And so going back to that, you establish a support system that what's the word?
Not encouraged,
Enables.
but like enables.
Enables that narcissistic belief that it's all happening to you,
Yes.
and not because of you in any way.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it helped a lot, actually, for me just to be in therapy for that amount of time. It validated me. It gave me some closure to how I was feeling. I was able to move past some things. So it was helpful. It really was helpful. But, over time, like I've been married, oh my gosh, what year is it? 23 years? 23 years
Nice.
now.
So in 2001.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Our anniversary is actually coming up. And we started experiencing a lot of trouble in our marriage.
What was the trouble? Do you mind talking about that?
Well, I guess it was just unhappiness, right? It was just fighting all the time, just constantly fighting. The house was not like a comfortable place to be in. Right. Of course, realizing now, looking back, like I have rage, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not fun.
But being married for 23 years, you said started being unhappy. So why wasn't it unhappy before? What changed?
I guess my needs were always being met. So I never really had a reason to be uncomfortable or unhappy. I had attention and I was being validated, and, I have a good husband at home, and, then things got comfortable. I started getting jealous and making things up. And
do you think the narcissistic part of you kicked in at some point more so than, because my experience in one of my last relationships, I won't say which one, just because it causes me a lot of grief if I do, is that it was really good, but then it switched very quickly. Like it just was like a light switch, and then all hell broke loose, and then it was just terrible. Like it wasn't a gradual thing.
Yeah.
And then, but that was more borderline personality, I think. When I forced that person to leave the household, I think that's when narcissism kicked in, because I validated that the borderline personality is where it all comes from the same brokenness, and there's a mesh between borderline personality and narcissistic personality disorder, right?
Okay.
And I think the narcissism took over when I validated that they couldn't succeed in a relationship, right, by kicking that person out. And then the narcissism kicked in full gear, and
Yeah.
my point is that it wasn't gradual, though. It was like a switch.
I'm not sure. From my perception, I don't know, because I didn't see it that way, right? For me, I can't remember a day where it was like on and off. I didn't even realize it was happening until like maybe a year ago at the most. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
So after 20 plus years, you came to realize something was wrong.
Even
correct me if
before
I'm
that.
wrong here.
Yeah, well, I knew like we weren't happy in the relationship like 10 years in, 11 years in. And
Did your husband express anything prior to that? Like, did he ever reflect back to you that you were being a certain way?
yeah, he tried. When we were having a rough time, he would try to point things out, and I would always switch it, right? I would always turn it on him.
Beautiful.
Yeah, all the time.
Classic narcissism.
Yes, yeah. And it's, but I was always feeling victimized.
Yes.
Also classic narcissism.
Classic narcissism.
So I was always feeling like he was not being right to me. He wasn't treating me right. He was putting me down, and like his perception, was off, and how he was like behaving and what he was saying to me. And it was just like,
It's like a black hole, I think.
Yeah.
For the person on the other side of narcissism, it's really a black hole, because as much as you pour in,
yeah,
it's never enough.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
never actually fills that hole.
No.
And the demand becomes higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And to a point where it becomes, I got nothing else to give. Like
That's it. You're buried now so deep in the ground
Yeah.
because I shoveled one step at a time to get you there.
Yeah.
Right? The narcissist puts you down the whole time, makes you feel like
Oh, yeah.
you're doing, like there's something wrong with you,
Yes.
not with me.
And the person who's receiving that, as a person who received that in a relationship, started to question myself.
Absolutely.
Oh, maybe I'm the narcissist. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me. Maybe,
Yeah.
the reality of hearing that over and over again, that it's me, is like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe it is me, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But to a point where I really started to doubt myself. Like,
Yep.
am I actually a
Absolutely.
loving man? Am I actually
Yeah.
a giving man? Am I actually a sacrificial
Yeah.
man? And, months later now, many
Mm-hmm.
months later, I can say, okay, I got a bit more clarity on it.
Yeah.
I still pop in and out of that, questioning myself. But yes, there's certainly when the narcissist is dumping that on you, dumping it on you,
Oh, yeah.
and what's wrong with you, and you, and you,
Yeah.
and you, and you.
Yeah.
The question goes, oh yeah, maybe it's me, maybe it's me, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
So did your husband at some point say, is enough, or did he?
No, I broke him. Like, that breaks my heart to say.
Yeah. It's okay.
I'm going to breathe through this one.
Sure.
Therapy helped a lot, actually, marriage counseling.
Yeah.
That's where I'll start. I didn't realize I broke him until we went to see marriage counseling. I was like, we got to do something, right? There was a blow up. I left and went and stayed somewhere else for a little while in a hotel. And then we decided to go to therapy and talk to someone. And, God bless my husband and his soul. And he was more than open to it. So we went to therapy, a marriage counselor. And the marriage counselor really saved our relationship.
When you went to marriage counseling, did you think, I'm going to fix my husband?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. There's something wrong with him.
I'm going to go to marriage counseling so he can change, so
Yes.
the marriage can be better.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
And then in marriage counseling, he said something, and because we were talking about how I was and how he was and our perception of each other and the relationship, and I was really mean to him, like really mean,
Yeah.
like horribly mean.
Yes.
And he said in therapy to the therapist that it's okay because I taught him how to be tougher.
Yes.
I taught him how to be less sensitive and be tougher in his
Yeah.
own skin.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of triggered something in me. Like, that was really sad, you know, that I have this sensitive man who's caring and loving, and I broke him and made him put on this like leather suit basically to be more resilient and cover up some of that like emotional supportive type of personality that he has to appease me, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of triggered a little bit of something, but the big shift was the therapist recommended that I read a book. And I never remember authors' names. I did write it down,
Okay.
so I can give it to you after.
Sure.
But the title of the book is Will I Ever Be Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers.
Okay.
So again, I didn't see that as me being a narcissist. I saw that as I have trauma I need to resolve. And I had already been working in therapy for a long time to try and figure out why I'm so angry, right? So
Yes.
I already knew that I have aggression issues and I'm very upset all the time. And
Yes.
like I live in this terrible world
Yes.
in my own mind. So I already knew that, you know, I needed to figure out what was wrong with me. Who did this to me?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So my mindset was already in this victim, like, so this
And so
book,
that book was good.
it answered my questions, right? I was
right.
like, oh, this makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. And then the more I was going through it, the more I realized I do this. I do this. I do this. I do
Yeah.
this. And it just kind of,
She recommended the book because of your past, or because was he seeing this narcissistic pattern in you? Like,
I believe
you
so,
know,
yeah.
Did you
I
ever-
never actually talked to him about it,
No?
but I
Did you think,
believe
because
so.
I'm wondering if he gave it to you thinking, oh, she's got a past to heal, or
He's very
Oh.
good. He saw a lot of the schemas. He started talking to us about schemas throughout our therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And he was like, he picked up on all the schemas. He was really, really good. So I think he saw more than that. But as you know, you can't tell a narcissist that they're a narcissist.
No.
Like, they
You
will
can't tell
never
them that
listen
there's
to
anything
you.
wrong with them, really.
No, they'll shut down right away.
Yeah.
As soon as you say that to them, you've lost them.
or they're getting defensive or angry,
Yeah.
or turn it around and make it about you. And,
Exactly. And you know why? I realize now why. Because I'm researching now more what a narcissist is, and I'm learning and listening. And it's terrible, right? Like, so no wonder narcissists doesn't want to admit they're narcissists. They're demons, right? Like, they're demons.
and they hate
every
themselves for it.
description of a narcissist is terrible, 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 terrible person.
Yeah.
So would you want to say that to you?
no.
No, who would?
No, it's extremely. As I'm also recovered narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
but back in my 20s, I was narcissistic and abusive, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole bit, verbally abusive. It's painful to come to that place of admitting.
Very.
So you teared up when you talked about you broke your husband, because I'm guessing you still carry a lot of pain from your actions. But I'm hoping, Nickie, that if you haven't, that you will forgive yourself too, and
Yes.
find peace in that too, because we're all broken human beings. You know, if there's a message, when we have so much more to talk about here, but a message to the narcissist is that it's all forgivable.
Yeah.
And if you continue to, it's this cycle of self-hatred that can just cycle down. And it's so even acknowledging now that you did things to your husband that broke him, if you allow that to beat you down, it's still more of that cycle.
Yes.
So being a Christian, being a believer in Jesus, it's the opposite. Everything is forgivable. Actually, there's only one sin that's not forgivable, and that's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. But other than that, everything else is forgivable, right? Murder, rape, anything.
Yeah.
So, for a narcissist to come to the realization that, yes, it was awful. Yes, I've done awful things, and I did that. My blessing was that I was also a drug addict, right? And so I was forced to either get clean or die. And when you get clean, it's not just stop using drugs. It's, okay, I got to face my whole life now.
Yeah. That's hard.
And so, it's hard. I remember the first year was so painful.
Yeah.
So painful.
Yeah.
But worth it, and a lot of the stuff in hindsight is worth it. But
Yes.
in the process for you, Nickie, and I think you're still in the process. I get that impression. You're still in the process of forgiving yourself.
Absolutely.
And healing and, being able to say I'm recovering or recovered narcissist without, I'm guessing your husband's forgiven you.
Yes, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids have forgiven me.
Yeah.
Like I've done terrible things, especially to my oldest.
Yeah.
Like emotionally to my oldest, and he's also. It seems like now that I'm realizing it's the feelings, right? Like they were both sensitive people. Both
Yeah.
my husband and my oldest are sensitive.
Yes.
And that threatens me or threatened me in the past. It doesn't anymore. I'm more open to it. I love it. But it meant I had to feel feelings.
Yes.
And I was always trying to hide feelings. I didn't want to have feelings because the only feelings I had were anger.
Yes.
Or that's how it would come out anyway. If I had to show any feeling, it was anger. It was rage. That was the only feeling. Like I would never, ever cry. It was against my moral, ethical standards to like
Would
cry.
you not cry at times to get what you wanted?
No. Yes. Actually, yes.
So, yes. Again, with my experience, my somewhat recent experience, there was crying, but it was a form of manipulation almost.
Yes.
And self-proclaimed victimization,
Yes. Yep, for sure. At the time, you don't think it though. You think 100%. These are valid tears. Like
Yes.
these tears are real.
Yes.
So it's only like that's why I answered no, and then went, oh wait, yes.
Yes. Yes, they're not tears of sorrow for the other person. It's tears like, why is this happening to me?
Yes.
Why is this person so mean? Like, why am I such a victim? Why are you doing this to me? Why is God doing this to me? Right?
Yeah. Now, why is this thing so unfair?
And so unfair.
So unfair. But to get back to your continuing growth thing, yes. So like the marriage counseling was step one, that realization, that like click of
Okay, so
awareness.
can we go back there for a second?
Yeah.
So you have this really good counselor. He's probably picking up something in you that it's like, okay, I see it now. And then that's a process. Like you said, you can't call it a narcissist.
No. You can't.
I probably made a mistake of calling my ex a narcissist, or I don't know what I called her, but I don't think I actually ever did. I probably did some things later after I ended it, but in the process, my head was spinning. I had no idea what was going on. Like it was a shit show.
I imagine.
Yeah. From the recipient's point of view, it's like,
confusion.
what the hell is going on? Well,
mass confusion.
Beyond confusion.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where you're, like I would just be in survival mode and constantly waiting for the next storm to hit.
Yeah.
Knowing that it was coming. I knew it was always going to come. I didn't know when. I knew it wasn't going to be long.
Yeah. You're just constantly walking on glass. It's terrifying.
Constantly walking on glass. And so the therapist sees something in you. He gives you this book, maybe with the intent of opening your eyes, maybe with the intent of healing your past. Because when I think about my ex, I won't say which one, my ex, I think she was doing counseling and she was getting healing for her past traumas. And I thought that was really hopeful. I thought, okay, good, because I thought with the healing of past traumas that there will come healing of the present, right? In terms of our relationship. It didn't change anything for me. It kept coming.
Yeah.
She felt better about herself and probably, like you said, felt more like, oh yeah, I am the victim. And then maybe if I had continued on, but it was too crazy for me.
Well, no, but like until you realize, right, the therapy that you're getting is all about like validating your feelings.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel this way, which is true. Like it's okay to have these feelings, but you're never dealing with the root cause. And same like food, right? You don't deal with the root cause.
And what you do with your feelings.
Yes.
So when I get triggered now, because I'm still, dealing with some CPTSD, like way less, by the way, than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I was like in extreme paranoia, anxiety, depression. Like I was going all over the place. The paranoia is mostly gone now. A lot of it's mostly gone. I've been dealing with it. I'm acknowledging. So, but my point is, I would feel something.
Yeah.
It was very real to me. But if I externalized it and put it on another person, the target person, that's very unhealthy. What I needed to do. So, when you're doing this, you're realizing that, you are having feelings. They are legit feelings.
Yeah.
They may not be based in reality right now and here, but it's based in some reality that you've lived or live, right?
Yeah.
And then it's what you do with those. Yes. If they go external, if those feelings become another person's problem and about them, then that becomes very toxic.
Yes.
Right. And if you're able to process them internally, as I'm doing, I'm dating someone, and poor girl, I have not externalized any of it, but there are moments like I was telling you, I think pre-start of this, I'll shut down.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, and I'll be feeling these intense feelings.
Yeah.
And I know it's not about her. I know it's just a trigger of something. And it may not even be anything she did or said. It just could be a trigger in the environment. I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't always make sense, but it's real to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these feelings are so intense and so real. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? So I will shut down a bit, and she'll know. But she gives me the space. And then, hours later or a day later, I can say, well, this is what was going on in my mind. And I'm sorry for, shutting down. But this is how I was feeling. And it's not based on you. And I have to acknowledge that.
Yes.
It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about me. It's about past trauma.
Yeah.
And so...
Yeah, I had the exact same situation just this weekend, actually. But it's that moment of reflection, right?
Yes.
It's that recognizing the rage is coming, right? The fire is starting to burn.
Yeah.
And when you're aware, you start to be able to recognize. And when you recognize, you start to be able to remove yourself from the situation so that you could analyze and process and question, right? It's kind of almost like a debate in your own head about recognizing no, this person's not trying to hurt you. This did not happen. They can't make you feel a certain way. You're feeling this way for other reasons. It's that self-dialogue discussion that you have to have.
It's intense.
It's intense.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And then coming back afterwards, like you said, and sharing that feeling. And I literally just did that.
Yeah.
Thankfully my husband is incredible, and I can do that.
Well, and it's to his advantage to let you do that too.
Yeah, but true.
It is. I mean, if I was with this person still and she was able to go through that and she was shutting down and just processing, able to come back later and acknowledge that there was something going on in her, not about me.
Yeah.
Well, it could be about me, but not necessarily about me. That would be great. I'd be like, yeah, take all the time you need. Take a day, take 2 days, whatever.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is, in the PTSD, it's very similar to narcissism. It's because I do get really inside myself sometimes, and I create these situations in my mind about the other person and what's going on with them. I just create this reality about the other person that's not based in any truth.
Yeah.
It's based in past, it's based in trauma, it's based in all these things. And trauma is part of narcissism, and narcissism comes from the experience of trauma. And I put it I'm like, oh, this person's doing this or they're thinking that, and it becomes real to me in a moment. Now, again, I'm aware enough to know that it seems so real in my brain, but it's not about her. It's about me. Yeah. And then I take time to process it, and but the intensity of the reality in my brain is insane. It really makes it's insane how much I believe it's real. And I remember my ex saying, accusing me of things that I know that she believed were real. They were anything but real. They were, in my world, they were far from any truth I knew. Yeah. But she believed they were absolute. And it was absolute. There was no... And so the difference, I think, for you now, Nickie, you probably go through these things, is that you're able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're able to be aware of that and then process it and not externalize it and make it about the other person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of that has to do with me being aware of where I am with my health. Yes. Right. And I know, and you said it earlier, in periods of stress, we kind of revert, right? Yeah. And so I know, if I hadn't eaten well and I didn't, get out and take the dog for a walk and get some exercise and sleep well, that it's more difficult to manage that automated response, right? So,
are you able to talk to your husband about that? That you are processing something, or do you need just that time to shut down and then process?
No, I can't at the time. At the time it's happening, no, I can't. Because I'm stuck in my own confusion, right? In my own, what's going on? Why do I feel this way? Yes. And then the therapist actually did a really good job of he calls it the little boy and little girl, right? Yeah. Like, where do you go to? Like, when you're feeling something, you're no longer in your head, right? You're not using your like rational mind.
Yes.
You are now in your gut and in your past and in your emotions.
Yes. And your fears.
Yeah. What
like
it's all
very fear driven, right?
Exactly. So like, where's this feeling coming from? So getting there is tough and trying to figure that piece out.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the core fear is not being worthy, not being good enough, not being lovable.
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to the next stage of my recovery, which was the awareness piece that the marriage counselor helped us with, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But it didn't help. I don't want to say fix me because I don't want to call myself broken, but it didn't get me to the stage that I needed to be to really heal.
Yeah.
What got me there was also like a PTSD experience that I had with my son's injury.
Yes.
And that got me talking to a different therapist focused on PTSD. But then we got into addiction and personality and compassion therapy. So she did compassion therapy with me, and that changed everything. That really was like the switch that I needed because, like you said, forgiving yourself is key. And having compassion for who you are and
for your feelings
and for your feelings and how you treated people and like how you treat yourself. Like you think you treat other people bad, how you treat yourself.
It's way worse.
It's way worse.
Way worse.
Way worse.
Unfortunately, it doesn't show on the outside.
No.
It just shows out in bad ways. But yes, how you treat yourself is way worse. What you think of yourself is way worse.
Yes.
I know that triggered some feelings in you, but how you treat someone who loves you makes you feel way worse, right?
Yeah.
Like this person who's actually really trying to love on you, it's an awful feeling to treat them poorly.
It is, but you don't realize it at the time because you feel victimized, right?
But I think somewhere inside you do know it. Like it's this cycle of toxicity within a person that it's just
maybe you don't deserve love.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, you don't deserve love.
Maybe.
Well, that's a strong feeling, right?
Yeah.
An example of, now that I'm going through the CPTSD and I'm triggered and I can relate to my ex. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Like this my reality becomes the reality. And so my girlfriend said something and I just started creating this in my head, this story of that she's being dishonest and, she's this and she's that. Like it was just, when I think about it, it was insane. Like she's the sweetest girl, like so sweet and so genuine, and I just created this crazy story about her that was so real in my mind, and I was beside myself, and that's why I shut down with her. And she noticed it. She didn't say anything. She just let me be because I've explained to her that I do go through these episodes, and they're way less now than they were months ago, but this story was so real about her, what she was doing and how dishonest she was. And I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, that is madness. Like,
but it was real.
It was so real in the moment. And, again, thank God I was able to internalize that, process it, give myself time, have compassion for myself, know that this is just a process I need to go through. And then externalize that it's not about you. This is what was going on inside of me. And I don't give her all the details because some of it I still feel like a little bit embarrassed about. Like I would even think these things.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, it's tough. And like I'm getting to this stage now where I'm trying to validate, right? Like is this what you're actually saying? Yeah. Because this is how it's interpreted for me in my brain, and it's this response, I'm responding, I'm feeling like triggered right now. Is this what you meant? Yes. So being able to say that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's really huge. Yeah, really huge. It's really made a big difference. And then like now I'm just working to say it without this tone, right? Right. Because I'll say it now like almost a bit angry. Like, were you saying this? And now I'm just trying to work on like saying it a little bit more softly. It's like just validating like, hey, this is how I interpreted it. Is this what you meant? Right. But it's definitely helped a lot to be able to do that. And then sitting with the answer, because before, no matter what the answer is, I didn't believe it.
Yes, of course.
It doesn't matter. I can
'Cause
ask
you
you
already
that.
had your own story in your head.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So now I'm sitting with the answer, whether I'm happy with it or not, and then going and reflecting on it, and then thinking about, okay, like how
long
does
does
that
that
make me feel?
process take for you?
It's been taking a long time to get there. I had to do a lot of
Even
mind shift.
in a very specific circumstance where you've made up this story in your mind's made. I shouldn't say you made it up because that's not even fair.
It's my perception.
Your perception has made
Yeah.
up a story.
Yes.
You're convinced of that story. You now are able to talk to your husband about it. And then you take it back because what he said doesn't align with your story. And your story is still very strong in your mind. And then you take it back and you process that. How long is that in a specific circumstance? How long does that take for you to process typically? Is that
It depends
hours,
on where you
minutes, days?
Depends. It used to take days.
Yep.
And then it used to take hours. And the most recent one, it took 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It gets better.
Oh,
and
wow.
better
That's
and
amazing.
better. Yeah. The more it takes work, though, right? It's like constant work. I'm constantly questioning everything that I'm doing.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
But the fact you've progressed that much, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I'm pretty proud of myself, actually, I have to say.
You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Look, you've done something, Nickie, that is very rare.
Yes.
To be in whether you are MPD or just an extreme narcissist or whatever, to go from that to self-awareness is very rare. I don't know what the percentage is of...
You know what it did? You know what did it for me? I was thinking about this, actually, in preparation for this discussion. I was like, how did I get here? What did it for me was not liking who I was, right? Like wanting to change something about myself, recognizing there's this person who I am. I'm occupying this body, right?
Yes.
Like this is a temporary situation. I'm occupying this body temporarily, but I'm not enjoying this body. I'm not enjoying this mind. I'm not enjoying how I'm feeling. Like
But how
I
did you
want to
become
be
aware of that?
happy.
Because you guaranteed you weren't enjoying it before.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was.
Yes, you. So the narcissist creates this persona. It's not real. It's like this altered reality persona that smiles and is happy and is fun and is doing this and very personable. And this is but it's not it's a strange thing. It's like a separate person that keeps the dark part of that person inside.
Yeah.
And it just is it's a mask.
Yeah.
And you tend to believe it.
Yes.
You need to believe it because
You
if you
have
don't
to.
believe, you have two choices.
Yeah.
Right? You either believe this false persona or you face your demons.
Yeah.
One or the other. Right?
So, yeah. I was thinking about that too, actually. And I figured it'd be easiest to like paint this picture.
Yes,
so
please.
Imagine yourself like in a concrete room, right? And there's no light, there's no windows. It's just you in concrete room and there's 3 doors. And one door is like happy, exciting, lots of bright lights. There's a party going on there. There's confidence, like, you know. The second door it's like the morning sunrise. It's calm and it's peaceful and it's bright. And then the third door is dark and has like a red orange glow to it. And like, that's where the devil lives.
Yeah.
And there's like suffering going on there all the time. And you're stuck in this concrete room with these 3 doors to choose from. And it's lonely in there. It's really lonely in there. So you want to go through these doors. The first door looks great, full of confidence, lots of fun. So you try that door and then you can't stay there long because you feel like a fraud.
Yes.
And then you try the second door and you can't stay there long either because it's too bright and everything's shining on you and that feels uncomfortable, right? You don't want that attention. It feels unsafe. So you try, the only door that's left is the third door. You don't want to go there. It's scary, but it pulls you in anyway. Like it drags you there. And yeah, it's what you know. It's like, it's the most familiar door for you. You're constantly trying to get out when you realize that you're suffering all the time. But the only other option that's left is this concrete room where you're extremely lonely and completely alone and depression sets in.
Yes.
So it's like you're constantly in this room that you're trying to get out of, but the only option that seems to be available is darkness. So like the way I saw it was like, and the way Dr. Ramani explains it is like being a personality type is, you have a personality. You don't have a choice. Like, potentially she's like, that's your personality. But maybe you can break down the concrete walls a little bit and let some light shine in, prop the door open to that third room, so that you can go in and out of it and maybe not feel so lonely all the time, but recognizing that it's there, it's always going to be there, but you can move in and out of it as you choose once you gain control. But you got to break that wall down first. So that's what I've been working on doing, is breaking that wall down so I have more options. Yes. And that room isn't as scary to be in.
And you're aware now of the dark room. You can talk about the dark room.
Yeah.
Before, you wouldn't even know the dark room was there.
No, I had no idea. I lived there. How would I know it was there? I was in the room. I lived there.
Yeah. But you had, so, now you can talk about the dark room.
Yeah.
Which is a huge step.
Yeah.
Because living in the dark room and never talking about it and just, trying to create this exterior persona that prevents you from ever having to face the dark room is a terrible way to live. It's terrible. It's death. Yeah. It really is death in life, because it's like a cancer inside that's just eating away, right?
Yeah.
So the fact you can now see the dark room. Yeah, you may end up there once in a while, but you know it. Yeah. Like, you're aware of it. I think awareness is
huge.
The biggest thing.
Huge, yeah.
Okay, I know there's a dark room. I know there's a dark room in me. I don't know your whole history, and you don't know mine, but there's certainly trauma from my past. And, there's no question that trauma still affects me today. And there's no question that even though I went into a abusive relationship, I came with PTSD already. Like, it was not that I came all pure and innocent, like I came with all this brokenness myself.
Yeah.
And, I was trying to heal something in myself in that relationship that that person couldn't participate in. But there's a difference between knowing it, being stuck in that and just living in that hell, and then coming out of it and saying, okay, I see it. Yeah, it comes in and out of me. I have reactions inside, and those are normal, and I'm going to have compassion on myself, and I don't want to go back into the dark room. I do like the one with the fun, and I like the one with the light, and I'm going to spend more time in there, but I'm going to fall back into the old room. And to be able to even acknowledge all that and work through that and walk through that is so amazing. It's a miracle. I said that to you before when you told me that you were a recovered narcissist. I'm like, oh, that's a miracle, because that's so uncommon. I would love to know the stats on how many narcissists actually become, aware of their narcissism.
I think Dr. Romani said like 4% of people or something. I don't want to quote her directly, but I actually do want to challenge her a little bit, though, because her opinion is that you can't change,
Yeah, I think that's that's common out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of really dark videos about narcissists, and I don't like them.
Me too. They're just like, how
are
you
helping? They demonize the narcissists, like as if they're not human.
Exactly.
Right? And they don't recognize superficially they'll recognize their brokenness.
Yeah.
But not with any compassion or love for that person. It's like almost a hatred towards that person.
Yes, and that's the part that got me the most. Like, I watched it, and it was painful to watch her interviews because she bashes narcissists consistently.
Yes.
And as a therapist, I don't know, I feel like that's like, to be so hatefully biased towards one personality type, I feel is like a very unbalanced therapist style, but she's not wrong with a lot of things she's saying, right? She's accurate.
It's a challenging balance for a therapist.
It's very difficult.
Because, and I'm not saying you in particular, but probably, maybe, but the narcissist can be so dark and cause so much damage.
Yes.
I mean, the narcissist is a destructive force.
Exactly.
That destroys people, actually really nice people, really love, because the natural draw to a narcissist is the empath.
Yeah.
The compassionate person, the person
who's sensitive.
Them. Yes, they want to help them. And, there's a flaw in the empath as well.
Yeah.
So there's a flaw in me. I'm an empath.
Yes. But if you describe an empath, it's like sensitive and feeling and like loving and compassionate and caring. And if you describe a narcissist, it's like evil and like horrible and like cold and destructive. And these are like...
And that's all true.
It is all true.
But there is also this humanity that's extremely broken.
Yes.
I think the reason that there are videos mostly about condemning the narcissist is, they are destructive.
Yeah, and they have a lot of victims.
And very few of them ever come around to seeing, I think one of the hardest things for me, coming out of this relationship was that this, in spite of, and I really tried to love this person. I didn't last as long as your husband, but you know, I was so broken.
Well, I don't know where I am on the spectrum either, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know where your ex was on the spectrum.
don't
So
know
everyone's
either.
experience is different.
But I was so broken.
Yeah.
Like so broken that I had to leave, end it. But in all that, I still have compassion for her.
Absolutely.
I literally, I'm not saying it figuratively, I literally pray for her every day, sometimes more than once a day. But literally every day I pray for her. I pray for her because I want God to enter her and heal what's broken. I do go out of anger now and then, but you know, when I left the relationship, I was really angry. I was like, this person like was so awful to me, like so awful. I was thinking of these realities, you know, like she would have this reality in her head about something that I was doing or had done. And no matter how I would defend myself. I'm like, but no. And no matter how much I defended myself, it made her more angry. Yeah. Because I was lying. Yeah. And she would say, "You're lying. You're such a liar. You're the most dishonest person I know." Yeah. I'm like, okay, so you can't like. So the madness in that for the person receiving it is like, what do I do? Like,
you can't win.
So I have to almost live in that reality, in her reality, which is, I'm this cheater. I'm this, you know, I'm out looking to get with another woman. I'm, you know, I'm selling tires for her. And I'm having an affair with this woman who I've never met before. Yeah. You know. So,
no, for sure. I get it. Trust me. I've been there. I get it. Like I know the other side. Like,
but I think that's why the darkness is in some of those videos. I'm not justifying it because there is that human side, and I believe, you know, in God, all things are redeemable. Yes. Right. But I get the videos too. It's like, the narcissist can cause so much damage in a human being, you know?
Absolutely. And I get that too. But I don't want to say but, because then it kind of dismisses, like there's victims and they deserve support because we can be very terrible people. But like sometimes we're victims too, and we need support as well. Yeah. And like my mind just goes to like I used to work at Correctional Services Canada, so like the prison system. Right. And I remember when the laws were coming down about like more harsh punishments and removing like parole options and things like that. And somebody had said something to me like they witness what happens in prisons when you remove hope, right? Take hope away from people. It's terrible. And things get worse and worse and worse. So I feel like if we keep describing the narcissist in such terrible terms, we are never going to help heal the narcissist. And then we're just going to keep perpetrating the victims.
There is a therapist who actually has another approach. Yeah. A very compassionate approach.
I'd love to.
And I wish I knew his name. It's a guy, and he talks about through compassion. And I'll be honest, at first, when I was just coming out of this, it was hard to watch. I'm like, screw compassion.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What the F, man?
Yeah.
But, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I get it, you know. And I really do love this person still, and I still pray for her. And like I said, I pray every day. But it took a while to come out of that. I'm really angry with her to, you know, she's coming from this broken place. I'm just never going to put myself in that path again. Yeah. I will never allow it to happen to me. And that's my choice. And so I want to go back to, I'll just talk about that relationship a little bit, is that I stuck around for the wrong reason too. Like I had my own brokenness inside that I was sticking around for a number of years. Like I could have walked away a lot sooner, but I was trying to get fed as well. Yeah. And so I need to take responsibility for that. My unhealthy approach to this relationship, which was trying to get something from someone who couldn't give it to me anyways. Yeah. And trying harder to get it, you know? So being an empath is a good thing, but being an empath in this situation also was trying to feed a brokenness in me. Yeah. And knowing that, I have more compassion for the person because we both were in a place of brokenness. Different. It came out in different ways. Mine came out, like you said, mine came out in the one where I can get, oh, you're so kind and generous and giving and sacrificial and all this stuff. Whereas hers came out in, oh, you're so mean and angry. Yeah. One thing I will say, though, is as a man, it is very difficult to get support.
Absolutely.
When you're abused.
Absolutely.
Because people don't get it. And I think stats are about 50% of the cases of where men are abused by women. And but men, people don't get it. Women don't get it. They say, oh, what did you do? Yeah. Like, I'm like, well,
Brene Brown has a really good audiobook on that. It's called Men, Women, and Worthiness.
Yeah.
And it's so recognizes that. And it's that's part of my healing as well, was to listen to that. I had my husband listen to it.
Yeah.
And it's a really good book and audiobook that addresses that exact thing. Because men in society are, held to a different standard, and like be tough and be strong and like don't show feelings. And
it's even like, what do you mean you're abused by a woman?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, come on. That doesn't happen.
What did you do?
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time the police showed up, because I had to call the police because all hell had broken loose. And they asked me, what did you do?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's this, they don't know. What did you do? Like, they were thinking, I cheated on her, or I did this, or,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it was just something that was going on in the house.
Yeah.
It was dust. And no, and luckily she confirmed it. She actually confirmed what I said.
Yeah.
Because she became very aware in the moment.
Yeah.
And they just still had to cart her out of the house. But, like, what did you do? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I didn't do anything that would justify this full-on attack. But it is difficult as a man. And I really, for the men out there, it's a tough road, and you don't have to suck it up. There are people who will understand you.
And I will say, actually, something that helped a lot in our marriage counseling that the marriage counselor encouraged my husband to do was setting boundaries.
Yes.
And standing up for
hate
yourself. What's that?
Narcissists hate boundaries.
Yes, they hate it.
They hate it.
I remember the first time that he like stood up to me.
Yeah.
And I was in shock. Like, I just couldn't believe that he actually said
gall of
these
this
things
man.
to me. Yeah. I was like, what? I didn't even know how to react, right? I didn't have no clue. I think I walked away because I didn't know what to do, right? I was so confused.
Yes.
But like setting boundaries is really important.
Yeah, and that's again, as the guy receiving, if I knew a lot of this stuff, I would have set boundaries.
Yeah.
It may have ended the relationship anyways.
Yeah.
Because if she wasn't self-aware at all, which she wasn't, I don't know if she is now, but she wasn't then, and I set boundaries, that would have just been sort of the end of the relationship for her. It would have been like, well, you're just being unreasonable, and it's ridiculous. But I think your husband's setting boundaries in your process of healing, which is easier for you to, I mean, even if it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You're not like, I'm, you're being an asshole. It's like, okay.
I was at first, but.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
But yeah, it was that, you're right. It's all divine timing, right?
Yes.
Like, it all worked out really, really well for me. I'm very blessed and grateful that it's worked out this way. I'm in a much happier place.
Yes.
And like, I'm so grateful that you pray every day for her, because that's a living hell that she is in.
Yes.
And I know, because I've been there.
Yes.
And I feel like now that I've escaped the room, I feel peace in my soul, and I'm like happier and less angry, and I can reflect and be more observant and curious about the situation around me, and ask questions, and it's really, really changed who I am. Like, I feel like a completely different person.
I'm
I'm
so
actually
happy for
starting
you,
to
Nickie.
like myself,
I love that.
Yeah.
So this is, we're going to have to wrap up soon, but this is, well, I think for everybody, it's an ongoing journey. Like, I think if anybody says I'm never narcissistic, I think they're just deceptive. Maybe you are a narcissist if you think that way, because we all fall into some scale of narcissism at different times in a day or a month or our lives.
Which room are you most comfortable in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this journey for you, because it started as in this intense narcissism, is probably an ongoing journey and an ongoing awareness of things you think, how you react, and all these things. And you sounds like you have an amazing husband, so
Yes.
Thank
And
God
amazing
for that.
kids,
and amazing
thankfully.
kids. And if they're willing to walk that journey with you as well, I think. Well, I think you guys have a blessed marriage because it's a journey. Because nobody said life is supposed to be easy, and nobody said a marriage is supposed to be easy. But you're walking the journey. You guys are walking the journey together. I think if you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship and that other person is still, just in that way, it's good to get out.
Yeah.
And if no other way, just to separate,
Yeah.
And then, if you can work it out then work it out. If not, to stay away. Like, I'm not suggesting, that anybody who's suffering narcissistic abuse stay in that.
Definitely not.
It's
No.
destructive.
You need to protect yourself.
Yes, protect yourself, protect your children, whatever.
Yeah.
But if that person is on a journey like you are, I just think it's such a blessing. It's difficult, but it's a blessing.
Yeah, I have to agree. like on all fronts. Like definitely I don't want anyone to be stuck in a situation where they're being abused. That's not okay in any form or fashion. But yeah, I feel very blessed to have become aware. And I'm very thankful for Luke, my therapist, our marriage counselor, and Beth, my therapy now. She's my ongoing go-to for several things. But yeah, you need support, right? And that's something I think a narcissist doesn't realize either. They're very individual, very independent.
Yes.
And I would never ask for help before.
Yes.
Never. It was all about how I could do this. I could be tough. I could get through this. I can fix this problem.
Yes.
I never relied on people. I never cried for anything. I never, I did everything myself and was tough. I was tough.
Yeah.
And being vulnerable, that's why I was so scared to come here today, because it meant that I had to show vulnerability. And that was terrifying. Like, I hope it wasn't too obvious on the camera, but like my body was shaking a little bit.
No,
like,
it's not obvious that way. I mean, you teared up for a bit there, but I think that's good. You know, I appreciate you stepping into fear. I think, fear, we talked about this before the podcast, fear can be a motivator or debilitating. You know? And if it's debilitating, you don't move forward. To step into it is, well, it's fear. It's scary as hell.
Yeah.
But now, and now we're coming to the end of the podcast and you survived.
I survived. I
yes,
did it.
And you did. It was such, I really enjoyed this. We could probably talk about it a lot more because I am curious more about the journey of healing, but I really appreciate you stepping into that fear. I really appreciate you, putting yourself out there, talking about it. And, I don't think I have you and your husband and your kids on my prayer list, but I'll have to add you. That God keeps intervening and helping you in the journey and helping your husband. One last question I have for you about your husband. Well, two last things I have, the thought I have and a question. The question is, because there'd be trauma for him in the time is he getting help for the trauma? Or?
That's a really good question. No, he's not seeing anybody. We're talking a lot.
Yeah.
But no, he's not seeing
That may be healing
anybody.
on its own, by the way. The relationship you have with him now may be healing on its own. The one thing the pain that I carry from my past relationship is I never got validated in any of that. Like there was no...
I apologized to him several times.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've acknowledged how terrible I was to him and how I broke him. Like he knows this. We've had these talks, so I've been very
So that's probably been very
open with
healing
him.
for him as well.
Yeah.
So I never got that. So I've struggled with that. I didn't get validation from other people because again, as a man, it's very hard to even validate that I went through this. But I never got, if I had been validated in that, it would have been healing for me. That, oh yes, I did this to you. Like, obviously, the narcissist never says I did this to you. And so I've had to work through that. That's a process. But maybe your husband is the part of the process is that you're able to talk to him about it and admit things, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I was just thinking, so that was the question, and then I had the thought, and then we can wrap up, is I wonder if it'd be interesting to have a men's group of recipients of narcissistic abuse, just to talk about it and process amongst men. I don't know how chaotic that would be. But, I run a couple of men's groups now.
Yeah.
They're not around narcissistic abuse. They're just good Christian men's groups. But
I'd be really interested to see how that would turn out. Like if you would get participation, because men, I don't know if they even recognize it now.
I have
like
a feeling we have a
husband
lineup out the door.
You think? I don't know that my husband even recognized it.
Potential that they actually were in an abusive relationship and they could actually talk about it and somebody might acknowledge it. I mean, the hardest part, Nickie, as a man was people weren't acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And you know who didn't acknowledge it more than anything? Women.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They were like, oh, well, how's she doing? I'm like, I don't know. And I don't care right now. Like, I'm just trying to survive,
Yeah.
And not that I didn't care about her, but, it was that, well, what about her?
Yeah.
What about her?
Yeah, because you're supposed to be tough, right?
Yeah. What about me?
Yeah.
I say, what about me?
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know. I think there'd be a lot of men who would like, maybe we'd have a lineup out the door, like of men just needing that validation because validation doesn't mean they don't need to do things to change the situation, but it means, okay, it's real.
Yeah.
Just to say, oh, it was real. Like it was real.
Yeah.
Because the hardest thing is thinking that you're living in some false reality, and that I'm the narcissist and I'm playing victim, and I'm, you know, I think the fact that I even questioned that means I probably wasn't the narcissistic but person, but that I was questioning my own narcissism and questioning my own.
That's what they say, right? If you think, am I a narcissist? Then you probably aren't.
Yeah, probably aren't. That's right.
But yeah, I think you maybe have something
Well,
on your
maybe you
hands
can connect
there.
me to your husband someday, and we can chat.
Yeah, you guys
about
can
it.
chat. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure he would appreciate that for sure.
For sure, I would do that. I would totally do that if he was willing. Well, thanks so much, Nickie. So brave.
Thank you. I hope it helps people, right? Like
in the end,
me.
this whole podcast is to help people. So, you know, if I don't know how it's going to help a narcissist, because they'd have to recognize something. There have to be a light switch that goes.
Yeah. I think if we can help a narcissist, we can start by stopping calling them narcissists. How about we say, hey, if you are living your life in constant sadness and desperation and anger and retaliation and reaction mode
And victimhood
and everything is always somebody else's fault, then let's talk, you know,
Okay.
and let's like discuss that.
I like
but
that.
I think we need to stop calling them narcissists.
Well, I think because it's got this negative connotation
Exactly,
to it. Like
exactly.
it's got a stigma attached to it.
Yeah, as soon as you say narcissist, switches off.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so I like that. I like that description. So if you're all those things, then, you know, there is hope. I mean, Nickie is hope. I'm actually hope. But mine changed because I had to get clean and I had to face my past or die. But, you know, hopefully nobody has to go through that to get out of narcissism. But I'm grateful that I did. But yours is a different journey. Yours is actually such a fascinating journey, Nickie, that I think hopefully it's hope for people who are watching this. And
I hope so.
yeah, and if you're a man, if you're a woman, obviously struggling with narcissistic abuse, receiving it, you know, I think there's a lot more support for women. You know, people rally, men and women rally around women who are say I'm being abused. It's like, all right, let's protect you.
Yeah.
If you're a man, though, you know, message me and I'll talk about it and whatever.
Yeah. No, that's really great. I love that you're there for people and willing to help and let men be vulnerable and share their experiences.
I would
really
certainly
valuable.
love to connect with your husband. So we'll see if you let me.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Nickie. Again,
Thank you.
For the courage to come on. And I know this was a long process for you to think about it and actually make the decision to come. So I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it. You're a great interviewer.
Yeah, thanks. If you like this channel, subscribe, click on whatever and this and that, and make sure you get all our videos. So, all right.
Thanks, Doug.